Hi, how are you doing? I hope you're well. I'm happy that you have bumped into this video. If you're new to these videos and you have met me for the first time, my name is Ruth Waithira. I'm a coach and a therapist of the Soul Clinic. And at the Soul Clinic is where we fix your pain. We help you feel good so that you can live a whole life. One of my greatest goals and ambitions in life is to ensure that people are overcoming the hindrances, the emotional blockages that come in the way of them living an authentic life and living in purpose and attaining their highest goals. And as such, one of the things that I know that really stands in the way of people living their best versions and being their best selves is if you find yourself in dysfunctional and toxic relationships. And for such, I've also put myself out there to teach people about a very common concept that everybody is talking about nowadays, and it's called narcissism. I know maybe you've heard people use that word and you may think it's become like a buzzword actually. People will talk about narcissism every time and everywhere. People are misusing it. Any man or woman that becomes, a bit difficult, someone you can't get along with, or someone who doesn't agree with your point of view, many of us are very quick to throw the word narcissism out there, and sometimes it's very misused. And the danger of misusing that word also comes because as we misuse it, and everybody now is up in arms and saying, oh, we can't call everybody a narcissist, or we can't brand everybody a narcissist, then the real narcissists get a field day. And one of the worst things you can do for yourself if you're a victim of narcissistic abuse is to invalidate your experiences, it is to minimize them, it's to imagine that you're too much, or to think that you're imagining things or creating stories, because gaslighting is one of the very common tactics that narcissists use. So as a victim of narcissistic abuse, and that is why I do these things, I do them specifically for victims of narcissistic abuse, because I wouldn't want you to continue suffering. I wouldn't want you to continue being in a relationship that is really killing you, that is sucking life out of you, that's standing in the way of you and your destiny, that's standing in the way of you and the dreams and aspirations you have and where you want to go. And as such, I always feel it's important that we put this matter into perspective so that we don't continue calling people narcissists, people who are not necessarily narcissistic. And it's also important to understand that narcissism also comes on a spectrum. So there are people who have highly narcissistic tendencies, and there are people who may have a narcissistic tendency here and there. There are people who qualify the narcissistic personality disorder criteria, and there are people who don't. So it's important that you also understand that it happens on a spectrum, so that you're not just throwing this word around like a buzzword. And as such, I thought I would love to talk about two signs or two behaviors that are common among narcissists, and the ones that are at top of the list for me are things that you should really look out for. And I want to start with my favorite, number one. It's that narcissists have this grandiosity, a grandiose sense of self-importance. And grandiosity is not pride. Because many people will say, people who speak highly of themselves, they are grandiose and maybe they are narcissistic. No. Grandiosity is beyond pride. And for me, it's the hallmark of narcissism. It's not pride, it's not arrogance. It's having a very unrealistic sense of superiority. A narcissist will think that they are way, way better, they are way, way superior, they are high up there. They are next to God, actually. And I like to say that in the world of a narcissist, it's usually God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and the narcissist. So they are normally at that level. So they imagine that they are superior beings, they are better than everybody else, they can never be wrong. So it makes it very hard for them to make mistakes. It makes it very hard for them to self-reflect. So a narcissist doesn't believe that they can make a mistake. They actually don't believe in being held accountable for their behavior, because do you know who I am? Do you know who you are challenging? Is the attitude they have. Like, Who are you compared to me? Why do you think that I owe you any explanation? What makes you think that you and I are on the same level so that you can question me? And as long as somebody is holding that attitude and very superior, warped, dysfunctional view of self, then it becomes extremely difficult for you to resolve any problem. And relationships present with their own challenges and their own problems. So as long as somebody is viewing themselves high up there, you can't have a conversation with them. And they believe that they are so special that they can only be understood by other very special beings. They believe that success belongs to them. And narcissists can be very, very successful people because the success really gives them an ego boost. So for them to be high up there, to hold high positions, to have money that can afford to buy them each and everything, really boosts their sense of self-importance. So a narcissist is not somebody that is proud. A narcissist is somebody who has an out of this world kind of perception of themselves. They imagine that they are not ordinary, they are not normal humans. So they should be treated with special beings, almost divine. And if you have interacted with a narcissist, that is an attitude that keeps coming forth for them. I know one narcissist who said that, when you're talking to me, you should be talking to me like you're praying. It's like you're talking to God. And that should really open your eyes when you start to feel like somebody expects you to give them a special treatment because they are special beings. So that is one of the hallmarks of narcissism. So if you're dealing with someone, look for something that is beyond pride, it's beyond arrogance. It's like a feeling that makes them imagine that they are divine beings. The other thing that you need to look out for is lack of empathy. A narcissist will never feel your pain. They don't. They are not able to empathize with your pain. They are not able to empathize with what you're feeling. So you will come there, you are in tears. Maybe they've done something so hurtful to you, so you're expecting an apology. Ordinarily, once you present yourself to someone and you say, you've hurt me, this action or that, or something you said or did hurt me. So you're expecting that an ordinary person will come out and say, I am so sorry, I will not repeat this again, or I'm going to look into it, and you expect some behavior change. A narcissist will not give you that behavior change. They will not even acknowledge that they have caused you pain. So it then becomes a cycle of you getting hurt and receiving no empathy. You're not receiving any apologies. There's no remorse. So you find yourself now, you're in a relationship with someone and you are always on the receiving end of negativity. And sometimes even when you express yourself, they will invalidate it. So you will come and express your pain, your hand in your heart, your heart in your hand. You really would love some empathy. You are vulnerable. And what the narcissist does is like they grab your pain, they throw it on the ground and they step on it. It's really lack of empathy. They're trying to show you, what are you complaining about? There's nothing to complain about. What you are saying is not even true. And at that moment, they may even use gaslighting to flip the situation to make you feel like you are crazy. How can you even say I did that? How can you even say I said that? I didn't say that. So they can use gaslighting to make sure that they are flipping things around. And that can really get confusing. And it will multiply the pain, it will multiply the heartache, it will just make the situation worse. So if you're dealing with someone who is showing some sense of grandiosity, or someone that lacks empathy to such extent, you can be mourning the death of your mother and the narcissist is making demands on you. You can be admitted in hospital. I'm trying to show you what lack of empathy means. You can be admitted in hospital and they are sending you messages telling you they expect you to come home and cook for them. I know of stories, I've heard of stories of people who are dealing with narcissists, and they'll tell you, I was actually in the ICU, and when I'm in the ICU, I'm in the hospital bed, I'm having oxygen masks on, and the narcissist is actually making demands of me in that state. So that goes ahead to just explain how much they are not able to fit into your situation. The narcissist won't care whether you are dying. They won't care, you know, whatever it is that is going on in your space. They won't care who has died. They won't care whether you have lost your job. But they will continue to make demands. They will continue to expect you to meet their needs. That is what is called lack of empathy. Somebody who can't see you, they can't feel your pain, they can't show remorse, they can't empathize with you. They will not be there for you during your worst moments. They won't be there for you when you badly need them. Yet they expect that you are going to be at their beck and call. You meet every one of their whims, and they have many. They always have something to complain about. So again, if you're not careful, you find yourself on this roller coaster of just doing. You're the one who is always giving. And at the end of the day, you run out. So you run out of energy, you run out of resources, you run out of the love that you are giving them, and you become a very resentful person. So if you're suspecting that the relationship that you are in could be narcissistic, these are some of the two things that you could look out for. There are many others that you can look out for, but focus on the patterns that this person has shown you over time. And number two, focus on how do they behave every time I try to hold them accountable. Do they have the ability to retrospect? Do they have the ability to go within and say, you know what, I think I've wronged you here and I'm sorry? Do they have the ability to view themselves as human beings with vulnerabilities and weaknesses, the ones that each and every human being presents? Because if you can't see that, then maybe it's time you started evaluating your relationship and seeing whether it could meet the narcissism criteria, because the more you invalidate your experiences with a narcissist, the worse it's going to get for you. You will get a lot of conflict within you because there's a part of you that is telling you this, another part of you is telling you that, and you are trying to make sense of everything that is happening in your space. And if you don't allow yourself to settle for what the truth is, then you continue to suffer. It continues to stand in the way. And I have seen narcissism exposure or being exposed to narcissistic behavior or narcissistic abuse can actually bring in a lot of physical and mental ailments for people. So before you throw the word around, please look out for patterns, educate yourselves, because it would be so wrong for you to brand somebody as narcissistic while they actually do not portray the traits of narcissistic personality disorder. But it's also a great disservice to yourself if you're in a narcissistic relationship and you're not able to pinpoint it. So if you think this information is useful, please share it with your friends and family and relatives, or someone you think who could be going through a narcissistic relationship or narcissistic abuse. Share with them and let's spread the word, because our essence is to live a life that is authentic. And as long as in a narcissistic relationship, then authenticity is not something that you are able to have. And once again, this is Coach Ruth Waithira of the Soul Clinic. And at the Soul Clinic is where we root for your healing. We want to see you thriving. We want to see you living your best life. We want to see you being able to rise above your most challenging situations. We want to see you coming into a healthy emotional space so that you can live a life that is authentic. And until next time, share this video.